Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Pat Bev on the right wing. He's being pressured as he'll give to Lillard. They want the ball in Dame's hands. If you're going to foul somebody, that's the guy you want shooting free throws. Instead, they get it to Bobby Portis. Launches from three, and he may have just delivered the dagger from the right side.
High post, Kyle lobs it inside. Rudy with a catch. Pump fake, rise, and dunks again. 25 for Rudy Gobert.
Step back, thought about a three, gives left sideline Hurt. He'll launch a three, got it, bring it up, put three on the board. Matt Hurt with that long release, able to get it over the top of the defender, Dorian Finney-Smith.
Waiting for McCain. He's got it up top for flip, right back to Jared. Drives the baseline. Back up top, flip to the left, Proctor. Now Roach has it for three. Good! Jeremy Roach a deep one. He's got 19, and the lead back to 10.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's my guy, DB.
What up?
What it do? I'm Ravi, Lulla. We are live from Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. I'm going to knock this lineup out real quick here.
Why?
We got a lot going on.
Is there a lot to do?
We got a lot going on. We are previewing boys state basketball.
Okay.
Yeah. We are previewing boys state basketball here as the schedule gets kicking tomorrow with our boys state basketball championships in Lincoln. So we will start the show off at 7:30 with Mike Etzelmiller from Millard North. We got that covered.
Sometimes I just want to call him Etz, but that's not to his face. He's just coach. I think everybody calls him that.
Yeah.
Even my daughter.
It actually took me a minute. Like I had to think about how to pronounce his name there for a second because I was like, that's just Etz. I didn't know that there's more.
The one thing you don't have to worry about, he's like the coolest guy on the planet. So he'll be. I mean, but we probably, you probably should figure out how to say his name. That's broadcast.
Just call him Coach Etz.
Yeah,
that's not professional.
Yeah.
Got Thomas Leichti at 7:45.
Shane, I'm curious. Did you pronounce his name correctly?
Did I pronounce his name correctly?
No, Shane. Or did you talk to him or did you text him?
I texted him.
Oh, so you didn't have to say Leichti. I wanted to see how Shane said it.
Well, I mean, there's some extraneous vowels in there.
It's tricky.
But Coach Leichti will join us at 7:45 from Omaha North. Our guy, Matty DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review, joins us at 8. We've got Bill Hurd from Gretna at 8:45. We've got Brent Sobleski from Bleacher Report covering the NFL at 9. And then we will wrap up the show with Joey Werning from Lincoln Southeast at 9:45. How'd I do on names? I do okay?
Yeah, I think you were fantastic.
All right, nailed it. I know I got Matt DeMarinis right. I know that one for sure.
See, now what you guys don't know about me
A lot.
I'm classically trained on names.
Yeah.
What does that even mean, Shane?
So for like classical radio, so like Franz Liszt, Rachmaninoff, names like that.
We're not actually talking to any of those people today, Shane.
But I'm classically trained, so I should be able to get Leichti just fine.
Fairly easy.
Fairly easy.
It might
you
be.
would think.
For as long as I've known Coach Leichti, this might be my first time on the interview.
Like interviewing him?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Speaking about names.
Yes. What?
So at some previous jobs, every once in a while, we would run into Indian names pretty frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I became the token.
Looking at my daughter's graduation list from Millard North last year of all the perfect SATs.
That's us, baby. Standardized tests. That's what we do.
Might have been the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen.
Standardized tests, spelling bees. That's our wheelhouse.
I said this once on air. I still think the number was like 36.
Of like number of people that have perfect SATs?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want you to
that's a lot.
You think?
It's a typically very high academic achieving group of people.
Is that right?
I did really well on my ACT and I did not study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must be rough.
Well,
what's it like being smart?
I don't know. I'll let you know if I ever find out.
Because I clearly have no idea. I'm still trying to figure out how to throw splitters with this Supernova softball.
I think it's a volleyball. It's a mini volleyball. It's about
almost.
Softball size, yeah. But no, I became
put a little air in this bad boy.
Anytime there was an Indian name, they're like, Ravi, how do we pronounce this? I was like, I was born in Omaha, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't speak any of that. Now, I still knew how to pronounce the names because of my dad, but
yeah,
I didn't want to tell them that.
It's yeah, I won't get into that in the open.
You know what we do need to get into in the open?
Why are you laughing? What's wrong with this?
I don't know.
I am exceptionally hungry.
Really?
Yes.
You want an Uncrustable?
Absolutely not.
I know how you feel about the Uncrustables.
Absolutely not. Last night for dinner, I browned breakfast sausage, crumbled it up.
Ooh, I love good breakfast
sausage. Did it
sausage.
in a little bacon up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bacon fat. Cracked 3 eggs, little seasoned, just kind of whisked it in. I have what I would call my egg skillet.
Mm-hmm.
Dump that thing on a plate with some shredded bacon, Gouda cheddar cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Melted it in, just put the lid on top like the last 25, 30 seconds. And that's what I ate. And I'm pretty sure my body used it up because I was up about 3 o'clock.
That's early.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I did TikTok. I did Google how to fall back to sleep.
Yeah.
There was like 3 steps this lady was talking about.
Figure it out?
No, she's like, first you got to sit up, try to induce a yawn and all this other stuff. I was like, yeah.
Got to induce a yawn?
I'm
not buying that.
I'm not doing that.
I don't think that's it. You know who else?
I wish I could remember the rest.
After induce a yawn, you're like, I'm out.
I just felt like she lost me at the sit up part.
You have to Google there. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there's a Navy SEALs trick to fall asleep. You have to Google the Navy SEALs.
Navy
trick.
SEALs are flooding my
your TikTok right now.
Yeah, because
what'd you watch that got you on the algorithm?
Sean Strickland.
Okay.
MMA said a couple.
Yep.
Very controversial things, and I went down the rabbit hole one day last week, and I think it's pretty much the same 2 SEALs.
Mm-hmm.
They're not happy with Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
Yeah, he may have lost his whole military base.
That's tough. That's hard to do.
Yeah, and he's already nuts. So
yeah, that's hard to do. Speaking of people who have lost their base, the Denver Broncos have let go of one Russell Wilson.
No, wait a minute. Didn't you think this already happened?
So they announced that they were going to, and then it hadn't happened yet.
I was like, why is this breaking news? Because it's official?
Because it hadn't actually happened.
It seemed like it happened when he was having pressers.
It did seem like that, but he's always having pressers. So
and everybody on all the talking head shows was mad at Sean Payton for being a bully.
But here's what I'm saying. They're eating $85 million.
It's more than that, too.
So minimum $85 million to get rid of this dude. Plus whatever dead cap money.
So that's the dead cap money plus whatever his salary, it is they owe him. Yeah. So $85 million is the dead money.
Yeah, $85 million. I had it backwards. $85 million is the dead cap money that counts against their salary.
Yes.
And then they actually have to pay him also.
Yeah. I have a.
That's why when I said yesterday we were having the conversation about the Browns, I was like, I don't know, man. If you really don't like a guy,
no,
you kind of just eat the money.
No.
Why?
$245 guaranteed.
Is that what's left still?
Deshaun Watson has the worst pro contract in the NFL.
Well, argument here.
And it's not close. It is worse than Russell Wilson.
Well, no argument here at all.
Now, so here's the thing skip all the numbers. How bad does a guy have to be for your franchise to eat the space?
To eat $85 million in cap space
and just be like, yeah, we're good.
Well, so I mean,
do I want that guy in Pittsburgh?
I wouldn't. That was my next question. Apparently the Patriots want to sign him, which, okay, sure.
No, he may be good with Mayo.
You think?
Yeah, and why? Yeah, Mayo's having to explain the changeups post Belichick. Man, you do your own thing.
Yeah, listen. If you fire a guy and hire a new guy, you have to sort of expect there to be changes.
And some mutual parting of ways.
Sure.
Well, hey, listen, and
I'm sure Bill Belichick doesn't want to be coaching football right now.
Yeah, we're talking to a couple of guys today that had to follow the men's. And we've been talking about this since all the jobs came open of what you would rather do. We just talked about following Martinez or Frazier on a smaller scale as a quarterback. Coach Klein and Coach Etzelmiller.
Yeah.
Both had to follow state champs.
Yeah, Cannon at Millard North.
Yep.
Obviously Klein.
Now both were on the staff, so I think that helps.
Yeah, that helps too. It's because it's more of a Frank Solich situation there where you're.
Ooh, I don't know.
You don't think so?
No, I don't really know because I don't know how much they switched up. They had a lot of good pieces
Fair.
to transition. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's their own style.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Coach Etz did something that I think I talk about it all the time, and he did it, and I would imagine it's paying dividends. He hired someone on his staff that could be perceived as equally knowledgeable and hoops.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he likes film. He likes scout. He's kind of an X's and O's guy. And Coach Mosser, and didn't bat an eye at doing it. That's not easy for everybody to do. Remember, I always tell you can't be afraid to hire people smarter or better than you.
Well, we talked
and
about,
I'm not inferring that. I'm saying he hired a very, very strong personality assistant. And Etz is, and Coach Klein will give him a run for his money, but easily one of the nicer guys, like in the Metro.
Well, and we talk about this with Coach Rule all the time, right? Of him not being afraid of hiring guys because he trusts that yes, they want to be head coaches someday. They don't want his job.
Yeah, and he's very handsy-onsies with the interviewing process. I don't even know if that's a word.
It's not,
but
you made that up.
So, like the thing with Russell the Love Muscle is if whatever culture whatever locker room he's locking into. I'm not typically a big assimilate guy, but
I need him to be less cringy.
You're gonna have to figure it out, because
Yeah.
you're probably gonna. I mean, I don't know. Do you believe any of the rumors? I mean, is the Bears deal done? Are they really gonna keep Fields? There's a ton of stuff flying. You got the tag deadline coming.
Yeah, tag deadline's today, right?
Yeah, about 8 hours.
I don't know that I
roughly.
I don't know that I believe the Bears are
7:48
keeping
left.
Fields, unless they heard something from Caleb Williams that they're just like, nope.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is possible, right? Because that's the one variable we've been talking about with Caleb Williams. Is
speaking of stepping into a culture, is it defined or not? Sam said something yesterday I thought was interesting. Poles outlasts his coach. That tells you a lot.
Yeah.
Typically, those guys are a package deal.
Yeah, you usually don't get a hire two.
Yeah.
I really don't know what to make of that situation. But if they end up keeping Justin Fields, I have to believe they heard something from Caleb Williams that they could not stomach.
Yeah, I just don't know what you could hear without bringing a guy in that would have you pass on that kind of talent.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. Or,
I mean, does he have like BTK tendencies, or
maybe he just does it? Maybe
is that the right initials, or am I thinking the steakhouse in Vegas? No, that's STK.
Yeah, that's a different thing. I think you're thinking of the serial killer.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's BTK. You're always thinking about serial killers, so I just assumed. Is
this thing on?
No, I wonder though, is it enough if he just didn't want to talk to him? Like if he just refused to talk to him? Is that enough to say, all right, well then we're passing?
I highly doubt that's what happened.
Okay.
I don't think.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to put the pieces together here, right?
I mean, if it's true, I mean, you'll hear lots of things leading up to the draft,
right? But I mean,
can you imagine the picks bundled? I don't know what the Raiders have to get. I could see the Raiders being a team
they'll go up and get him
that would make the Herschel Walker deal look pretty standard. The whole Ricky Williams thing,
basically trading your entire.
Yeah,
draft.
I don't think the Raiders have those kind of commodities, but they got a couple you may want.
By the way, Deshaun Watson has 200 in dead cap this year.
Yeah,
so he's got a little bit more to go.
It's unbelievable.
That contract is, even though
I looked at you yesterday, I chuckled.
Yeah, I didn't realize how big the dead cap it was. I was just thinking about the money he was owed.
And he wasn't that.
Yes, he was.
He wasn't. He was 7 to 4 TDs to interceptions. He completed a decent percent.
Problem
is he got sacked 17 times.
He's been terrible since he came
that's
back.
A little bit of.
He's been awful.
It's a little bit.
I would almost.
Hyperbole.
TK says BTK is not something that I thought I would be brought up today. A little flavor of home.
Oh yeah, that's in his backyard.
That's.
Although I think wasn't BTK Wichita.
I don't remember.
So at least he's got to drive another couple of hours.
Yeah, got to stay out of the.
Unless TK is like really hiding out in like Derby or something.
I don't know. You got to watch out there. I think he's over there at Lawrence. That's our guy.
Maybe it's STK.
He says Russell to the UFL. You never know. You never know.
No.
Never.
What was this, Jeff Garcia 2.0?
Man, that first
No.
Nighthawks team had some wild dudes on it.
I know.
Like-
I wonder if those guys have been paid yet. What do you think?
Probably not.
I should ask AG. Hey, they still owe you money? But you try not to be in another grown-up's pocketbook. But
man, that was.
By the way, I forgot.
Don't forget about good old Mo Claret.
I forgot to text Foreman back. Funny story about Mo is I got to know him pretty well.
Yeah?
Yeah. He trained. I would see him every morning. There were a couple softball players that I trained, and one happened to go to Millard South. And so that was kind of the meeting place because they had the track and the stairs and stuff. And he was constantly running those stairs.
Yeah.
Yes, we talked about life. He's one of those deep guys.
Yeah.
I imagine he has like multiple conspiracies.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm telling you, like,
it's one of those.
I think very deeply. Yes.
Does he actually think deeply, or does he just think he thinks deep? Like, is he a Kyrie Irving, or is he actually?
No, he's bright.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about. There's a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Because like Kyrie.
That just gets up and says, you know what? The only reason we call that blue is because people told us it was blue.
Colors are.
How do we know it was blue?
Colors are a construct.
Yeah. He's not that guy.
Okay. Because like Kyrie thinks he's the smartest guy in every room he walks into, and he's almost certainly never, unless he walks into like a kindergarten classroom.
Wow.
So I was just wondering if
you're
right. I mean, the teacher's probably in the classroom. That's not fair.
I don't know if he's smarter than Zoe.
Wow. He might not be. Certainly not smarter than the kindergarten teacher if they're in the room.
Although she wasn't smart enough to get her a little behind in that bubble bath this morning. That took about 6 extra minutes.
Was she rocking the unicorn PJs?
She was busy trying to put her hair in a pony.
My wife loved those things. She's like, those are like the little PJs. Yeah.
Dude, she dresses like she's 58. She wears like flowered bell bottoms. Like I'm telling you, man.
She got the little Stevie Nicks thing going.
Hey, did you go to that concert?
No, I didn't.
Shane, you didn't go to Stevie Nicks Sunday, did you?
I wish I could have.
What, you just wanted to stand back?
Stand back.
Be
on the chain gang.
In the middle of your room?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hear from me.
I know, right?
All right.
No, my wife's work gala was that night, so we couldn't go.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Judge-free zone, right? Tree of Trust.
Absolutely.
Saturday morning, I was at
Bath
and Body. Over in
that was Bath and Body Works. If you didn't catch that over here,
yeah, feel that. Big fragrance guy.
Listen, you got to smell nice.
So not like to wear. Like they have these things.
They have a men's section. It's fine.
Okay.
They do.
Okay.
I got some stuff from there. I'm no shame.
You're also in a Mr. Rogers sweater today, okay, bro?
This is a nice sweater.
We got issues.
I got another.
Shame on you.
I like this.
So anyway, I'm looking for these little fuse things that go in your wall.
Yeah.
They're unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Even though they screw the wrong way. You know how it's usually righty tighty, lefty loosey?
Yeah.
It's just the opposite.
Yeah, they smell incredible though.
They're unreal.
Yeah.
So
make your whole house smell good.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Short story long. I had on I can't remember what I was wearing. Something had a W.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like the young lady was like, and the lady that was helping me, because I'm asking these ridiculous questions.
Yeah.
I'm looking for combo sense, and the lady was like super nice, so I just was taking advantage of her kindness. It's early on the Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It just opened. It's like 10:01.
Yeah.
And the girl was like, "Oh, did you how do I say, who do you know at Westside?" I was like, I said, I coached there, whatever. She goes, "Oh, I graduated." And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Yeah, do you know Mr. Jerner again?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, he's a cool guy, man. Yeah. So we got to talking, and she goes, "So what are we looking for?" And I had like a basket of like fragrance things, right? And I said, I'm big into scents. And I said, "You're awful chipper this morning." She says, "Yeah, going to Stevie Nicks tomorrow. I can't wait." I'm not kidding you. God is my witness. She breaks into song at the checkout counter. It was the greatest thing ever.
What song?
I wanted to high five. I don't know. I mean, she literally was like, she put her head down and she was singing, and she said, "Yeah."
Can't Wait is a great song
And she
that
was
she
like
has.
this talking, and she's like, "Oh."
Can I just say,
like, sea breeze, fresh linen in the sea.
I'm a mahogany teakwood guy.
100%.
Yeah.
That thing wet.
I have a bar of soap. I haven't even opened.
Yeah.
That's teakwood.
I was so happy when they took it from just like the wall scent and like they made actual product.
Do you know who's gonna call now? Is Tim. Tim in Colorado.
Mahogany teakwood is elite.
He's my guy that every time they palm the ball in the NBA, he sends me a clip and says he doesn't understand basketball.
It's fine. Just accept it.
I don't know.
It's fine. No, I will say, just
like literally
random
broke into Stevie Nicks.
Random Stevie Nicks moment here. She might be like the biggest gangster in music history.
Oh, do tell.
So okay, so you know, like the
this is the kind of range you get with Hurrdat Sports Radio, okay? BTK, little Russell Wilson, little Stevie Nicks, little Bath and Body.
We're gonna talk boys basketball here in a minute.
Yeah, following a legend. What else could we weave in?
No, so Steve, you know, like the love triangle
Coach Klein
deal.
They're well away. I'm weird.
Oh yeah, with like the Fleetwood Mac like love triangle deal with like her and the other band members and stuff. She just dead ass stares at these people who like cheated on her and like ruined her relationships and stuff, singing songs about them.
Yeah,
while they have to play the songs that she wrote about them being trash.
That is gangster.
That is like one of the most gangster moves of all time.
Landslide is one of my it's in the playlist.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's in the rotation.
Like Stevie Nicks is a gangster.
Took my love, took it down.
And she just stares at him while she sings it. Making someone play a song about their infidelity is one of the most gangster moves of all time. Like, tell me a more gangster move than that. I don't have one.
I never looked at it like that.
I don't have like.
That's pretty sweet.
You know what I do in that situation? I leave the band.
Tuck tail.
I was like, no, thank you.
Isn't that why most of those bands split up anyway? Yeah,
100%.
They bounce. They don't stick around.
Because somebody slept with somebody else's somebody, and like we're done here. All of these
Steve
people.
Perry's drummer ain't playing anything about Sherry.
All of these people not only had relationships with one another, but cheated on each other with one another.
See what it did to the 5 Heartbeats.
And Stevie's just like, oh, no.
Is that real?
We're not breaking up.
Or the 5 Heartbeats?
Well, maybe.
I don't know. She's like, no.
Wait, was the 5 Heartbeats fictitious?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It had to be based on somebody. The Four Tops, Temptation. I know it's black. You may not know, but I'm just asking.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I didn't mean to say that out loud. I forget this thing is on.
It's all right. It's not Black History Month anymore. We're cool. But yes, to sum up, Stevie Nicks, gangster.
Shoot.
Not only did she not leave the band, she's like, I'm going to make you sing about it.
Hey,
I'm going to make you play songs about it.
At least we got the lineup.
I got the lineup out right away.
We tried to start with sports.
I tried to get to Russell Wilson. And
how are you just going to say that with a straight face, though?
It's my deadpan. That's why people like me. We've got Coach Etz coming up to preview boys state basketball.
Yeah, no.
If he answers the phone, I wouldn't blame him if he didn't. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590's ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, trying to get the show back on the tracks here as we are joined now by Coach Mike Etzelmiller, the head basketball coach at Millard North for the boys team as they start the state tournament tomorrow. Coach Etz, how are you this morning?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Coach. How you feeling?
Feeling good.
Hey, you guys are playing well, so that helps, right?
Definitely, yeah. It sure does make our coaching staff look a lot better when they make some shots.
So, Coach, obviously Millard North has had a great run of success in the last few years. Great players. You had Coach Cannon, obviously. What's it like taking over not only for a coach like Coach Cannon coming off a couple state titles, but also taking over a program where you're trying to replace a ton of high-level guys that are playing at the next level now?
Yeah, it's really exciting. Like you said, we've got a lot of players in the past that have been very successful, and now to have a new group of guys that hopefully have learned a lot from those guys, and even myself learning a lot from what it takes to be a high-level basketball player. Very excited. Now it's our job as coaches here to continue the success. Coach Cannon has done a lot. It was a long journey when Coach Cannon started. I was here as an assistant, and we had some painful years at the beginning, and to see where the program's been, and now again trying to maintain that.
Coach, you haven't. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you haven't lost to a Metro team or a team in the state since December. That's a long time. Nice little streak to be on. How are you setting the standard of excellence? Like, what are you chasing to make sure that your guys stay sharp?
It's probably one of those coaching cliches is that just the process. Right? It's an important day, whether it's practice, whether it's a team that's very competitive or a team that that you're superior to, and you got to make sure that it's, yourself is just as much of a opponent as the other team. So our guys have been really focused. We've got a really great group of seniors, as do a lot of other teams in the state. But we feel really good about the guys that are on our team and how they've been competing in practice every day, and I feel like that's really helped us be successful so far.
You brought up something I think is really underappreciated, and I may be a little biased, but I doubt it because I don't really like my own kid. But this group of seniors in the state at multiple schools, there's just a lot of good kids, from the Pokorskis to the Wilcoxons to the Bennings or Rezaks or the Mossers or Eli. Like, there's just Jaden Jackson. There's just a lot of good kids that I'd call Eldon Turner if he'd answer my call. I'd say, "Hey, Eldon, you want to come watch you want to come watch babysit Zoe?" Like, there are just good kids across the state.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches that'll be excited for graduation time. A lot of guys that have played probably 3-4 years of high school basketball.
Yeah,
so,
good point.
We're going to be sorry to see these guys leave, but at the same time, you see a lot of other guys, like you said, from other programs that have put a great mark on their high school. So,
Coach, you kick off your state tournament with Gretna tomorrow night. Tell me about how you feel about the way you match up with Gretna. I know you played them earlier in the year. Have you seen them change at all since that matchup?
Not a ton. They're very skilled. When we played them at the beginning, in the middle of the year, it was coming right off of the passing of Coach Feakin, and so it was probably an emotion roller coaster. There was a lot of ups and downs. So now that they've maybe had a little more time to get some basketball underneath them, they're going to be ready. Anybody in the state tournament is going to be ready, though. All 8 teams are had a great year, very successful. So, taking one game at a time, and Gretna, the matchups guard-wise, look very even. They've got 2 really good guards, and I feel like we've got some good guards too. And then got Cook that has done a lot, that has really improved, had a really good game against Kearney, and so the matchup I think is a really good matchup, and it'll be a tough one.
Yeah, I actually think, and we'll talk to Coach Hurd about this, I actually think Cade could be kind of the X factor if Gretna wants to pull off the upset. But back to you guys, seems about, here and there, 7 is about the number consistently in the rotation. There are a couple of teams, Gretna, who you'll see, you guys, West Side. Depth isn't really a luxury, but you manage the minutes and sprinkle in time when you can with your bench. How important is managing who you've been all year versus knowing you could potentially play 3 games in 5 days?
Yeah, definitely digging into the bench early in the week. And I kind of heard Coach Hurd say it last night on the radio. The way that the state tournament really doesn't happen in high school basketball throughout the year. So playing 3 games in 4 days is different, but it's part of that's got to be how you practice and making sure that you practice hard every day so that you're prepared for this. But minute-wise, I can also see every one of those guys that play for us would love to play all.
Yeah,
they would rather not come off the floor, but we'll try to be smart with it and try to get them some breaks when they need them. But you got to do what you got to do to win the first one.
Coach, you guys haven't played a ton of close games this year. You were sort of waxing a lot of people there a little bit. One of the only close games that you did play was against this Gretna team earlier in the year, as we mentioned. Do you feel like you saw your guys in enough tight, late situations to feel good if that comes up in the state tournament?
Yeah, it was a very close game, and they had some guys that made some big plays. A lot of times in close games like that, you really look towards your guards, right? How they handle pressure, how they get us into some situations. So, we might not have tested as much in the season, but we're trying to do as much as we can in practice so that we're ready for those moments.
Coach, you got multiple ways to skin the cat, and I'll get you out of here on this. I saw one of the best offensive quarters maybe in the last 4 years that happened in our building. You guys almost touched 30 points in the fourth quarter. And for those at home doing math, that would have put them on, I think it was 27 points. It would put you on pace for over 100 points in the game. It was a thing of beauty as you ended up blowing Westside out on their own home floor. How do you stress to your guys the movement, right? You got a lot of guys that can go get buckets, but you're really, really good when you're sharing the ball and a good shot turns into a great shot.
Yeah, that's exactly right there. As we talked about it yesterday, just making sure that we get the great shot, not just a good shot, because we could come down the floor and, anybody that has the ball in their hands, they could probably shoot it and it would be a good shot. But, making sure that we get the best shot for our team, whether that's 5 passes or 2 passes. Our guys have been really unselfish. We got a lot of guys that have scored the basketball, but I think if they walk out with a win and they score 0 points, they'll be just as happy. So it's been a very fun year with these seniors and the underclassmen that we have playing. So we can continue that that unselfishness and then just be competitive on the defensive end. And I think we'll at least give ourselves an opportunity.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Good luck at the state tournament. And from a Millard North guy, go Stangs.
Yeah, right, Rolf. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
That's Coach Mike Etzelmiller. He is the head basketball coach.
You had to slide that in.
And listen, I got to, right? Listen, those are my guys.
That's all right.
05, baby. Let's go.
I told you.
Nobody on this team was born when I graduated. That's fine.
I told you what Bree said the other day. He was at the boys' game with Maya.
Yeah.
That was when where Sauter was teasing her about babysitting.
Oh, yeah.
And Micah got mad, and he comes home. We're going. He's like, Dad, he's in my Fave 5. I mean, he may be the GOAT. I was like, oh, I want to hear this.
Yeah.
He's like, man, Coach Mosser is the real deal. I said, wait a minute. Whoa. No. Of all the people, we're going with a Mosser reference in our household of the GOATs.
Listen.
And turns around, the family sat right next to us Tuesday night at District. I mean, good people, good staff. Easy to cheer for. Etz is a good one. Behringer's a stud.
Oh, yeah. Love Behringer over there and the admin.
Admin matters.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Got to be.
Admin matters.
Got to be a line in your vision from top down. That's the way it has to be. That was Coach Etzelmiller from Millard North. Coming up here next, we're going to talk to Coach Leichti from Omaha North as they kick off their state basketball run as well. Coming up here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
We will be back. be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. You can start fading that music out anytime there, big guy.
Yeah, Shane. Are you producing?
We are joined now on the phone line by Omaha North.
He threw you off, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, it was just loud in my ear the whole time. I was like, I'm waiting any minute now. Just bring it on down. Talking to our next guest, Thomas Leichti, the Omaha North boys basketball coach, as they prepare to kick off in the boys basketball tournament here. Coach, how are you this morning?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Coach, what's up, buddy? How we feeling?
Oh, not too bad. How about you?
Man, I'm another day, another dollar, man. Like I think, is this our first, after all these years, is this our first time?
I think it might be. I think so.
First time, long time, man. But you picked a good time, man. A state representative with a gaudy 21-3 record. I was messing with Sauter on Friday. When you look at the teams that have gotten to the 20-win mark, obviously Bell US with the 24, but you look and there's North right dab smack there at 21 wins. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we feel good about the season. We really had a really good off season. The kids have really done everything we've asked them to do. Obviously, West Side, WS, and Millard North, the other teams with 20+ wins, they obviously played a little bit tougher schedule than we did, but, that was out of our control. And, we just felt like we handled our business, day by day, one game at a time.
Yeah, Coach, I'm glad you brought the schedule up there because obviously that was the knock on your team through a lot of the year, but obviously outside of your control, how have you kind of kept the guys focused and just said, hey, we got to take care of the task at hand and in front of us rather than worry about things that we have no control over?
Well, we got a couple of wins early on against some good teams in December. Then we knew we had some tough games in December and some tough games at the very end there in February. And we just told the kids, from day one, if we could grab a couple of those games in December, then just keep stacking wins, take care of business, win the games that we were supposed to. We kind of stressed all year about hosting a district. It was kind of an emphasis the whole season. With us being fortunate enough to get out of the gate with some success early on, we really stressed, just winning, just continuing to win and one day at a time because we really felt like we wanted to be playing at home. It's been a long time, and we're glad that we got the opportunity.
Coach, you got to walk me through. Obviously, we're trying to follow online, and everybody's trying to get the tail end of the broadcast against Papio South. You played them twice, 5 points total in the 2 wins, but down as many as 18 or 19 at one point. What's going on in the huddle, right? There are times you can be real excitable. And there are these times I watch you just sit and teach. What was the method down 18?
We just kept telling them to stay in it. The other coaches weren't too pleased about this, but we were tracking the West Side game throughout, and Papio South was kind of started putting it on us. And they didn't like it, but I kept telling the team on the third and the fourth quarter in the huddles, I said, look, we're going no matter what. So we could sit here and watch this team smoke us, cut down our nets, and then we're not getting any better to go to state. We just kind of said we had a choice. We told them you're not going to make up 18 points in one possession.
Oh, that's gutsy.
Yeah.
So you talked about this real time?
Yeah, this is in the middle of the game.
Wow. Know the pulse of your team, don't you?
What's that?
I said, you know the pulse of your team, don't you?
Yeah, I just felt like they, honestly, yeah. I just thought it was the right thing to do. We told them, I think I probably told them at least 4 times in the second half of the game that we were going to go no matter what. But is this really how we wanted to do it?
So you did it without making a 3 in the second half. That's almost unheard of.
Yeah, actually, we didn't make a 3 outside of the first quarter. We just, we didn't shoot the ball that well throughout the year from 3. We shot the ball really well from the floor overall, but we just really thought we just want to get layups. We always feel like we can get half-court stops, that we're going to get a chance to get out on the open floor and hopefully get to the rim.
Coach, you've got Central as your first game. Obviously, you split in the regular season with them, but how is it with some familiar faces on that side, trying to keep focused on the game itself and maybe not some of the personal relationships?
Damon's got me off.
I'm as curious as anybody because it's tough. I mean, it's tough.
We just told the guys not to worry about where we're playing. It's about us. It's a big game. It's another game. It's obviously very ironic that this is who we're playing, but I wouldn't expect anything less.
So, for all because I think you got to give yourself a little more credit than that. I think for all the schedule talk to still come in as the 4, I mean, you took care of business, right? The A4 seed with those points that you stacked up, that's a lot of good basketball in there.
Yeah, we thought so too. Actually, if you go back and look at it, it was, like you said, we all know what the obvious talk was throughout the season about our schedule. But if you actually go back and look at it, there's a lot of teams above 500 on there, and some teams that we beat that were ranked in the top 5 at the time. We obviously lost to Westside, number 3 team in the state. But playing La Vista South, the first time we beat them, they were number 2 in power points at the time. Lincoln Southwest finished with 16 wins. So there were some good wins in there, and it helped that some of those teams just kept winning games down the stretch. Southwest won a bunch of games down the stretch. To play in La Vista, the Monarchs were kind of sneaky under the radar. I don't think a lot of people realize how many games they won. And we just kind of kept stacking wins and just telling the guys, we can't control the schedule, but, you're not going to give any wins back.
Let me ask you something, because I think we watched, the kids watched a lot of scout from Brian and We watch Potts really get underneath Bynum and be physical, and we kind of tried to replicate that style. I watched the first quarter and a half. Obviously, it's your place against Westside. When you guys are underneath guys and defending, it can be kind of hectic. How important is the way that you want to play versus how the game could be officiated on this big stage? Like, are you walking your guys through, hey, you may not always kind of get the calls you want, but there's a style that you want to play to be successful?
Yeah, and our style is just that. Like you said, we like to get up underneath people and sit down. We stress, sit in the chair, nose on the ball. We spend a lot of time on defensive slide, lateral movement, and things like that. We don't press a whole lot unless we absolutely need to. I kind of like the philosophy of, the floor is 94 feet. If we're strong athletically, I'd rather cut the floor in half and have 5 guys on top of 5 guys in the half court rather than put 10 guys out in the open floor.
Coach, you mentioned some of your philosophy, obviously, there with your defensive strategy. You mentioned getting stops in the half court earlier. You mentioned you're not a great 3-point shooting team. What are some of the things you're going to be looking for in terms of strategically trying to accomplish against Central to make sure you are able to get those good looks in the half court offensively?
Well, the key with them is you got to rebound the basketball. They really pound the glass. They're probably one of the better, I'd say easily one of the better rebounding teams in the state.
Especially offensive glass.
Yeah, and they really bang the glass hard. They really do. And they're tough physical kids, and they've got good size. They're kind of like us. They're kind of defensive oriented. We like to play in the half court a little bit more than they do. They're more of a full court team than we are, and we're probably more of a half court team than they are. But the key is, we know we're going to get zoned. We zoned each other last time, actually. We don't really hardly ever zone anybody, but we zoned them last time, and they zoned us. I think you're looking at 2 teams that don't shoot the ball extremely well. You're going to go play in a big arena with a different backdrop. I expect a low-scoring game, but, you don't really know what to expect really when you get there.
Some of the better-kept secrets in the Metro and in the state will be showcased. Obviously, Minor Strong is one of them. When you look at his frame and kind of his build, how's he playing when you think he's on his game? He's got a lot of versatility. What do you want him to do? How does it look to you?
Well, we just want Minor to be Minor. I mean, I told him that a few different games at halftime. I was like, hey, look, man, I truly believe you're the best player here right now. Between the other, our opponent, we were playing a really talented team the other night out at Bryan, and the game was kind of close at halftime, and kind of told him, I said, hey, look, I think you're the best player out here, the most efficient player out here, and I need you to show it. He completely dominated the second half. The one thing that, everybody knows that he's a 3-level scorer. He's very efficient. He takes care of the ball. His assist-to-turnover ratio is phenomenal. Extremely efficient. He's really smart. He gets to his spots. If you pay attention, he shoots from the same spots on the floor at all times. He knows how to get there, whether it's in transition or in the half court. But the one thing that I don't think he gets enough credit for is his defense. His on-the-ball defense. His hands are so quick on the ball, and he's lanky, he's long. He's a great leader, man. One of the best leaders I've ever had the privilege of coaching. He just really stepped up between last season and this year, and I'm extremely proud of him.
That's Coach Leichti from Omaha North. Coach, we appreciate your time, and good luck this week.
3:15 tip, bud. See you soon. You got it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
That's Coach Thomas Leichti from Omaha North.
That game will be about managing emotions.
Oh, yeah. You could tell when he answered the question about the Central matchup and that there's a lot there.
It's a good question because I think it's the one that everybody talks about with this matchup. And a lot of familiarity, 0 love loss.
Well, and they split the regular season.
0 love loss in this one. So I think a lot of stylistically they're kind of similar. So I think this one will be who most closely resembles themselves.
Who can play closest to who they are.
Yep.
That is that's good stuff there from Coach Leichti. We will continue our boys basketball previews at the end of this 8 o'clock hour. But coming up next, we've got Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Got to talk a little Creighton Senior Day, Big East tournament coming up. Still got Villanova on the slate, though, this weekend as well. All that and more coming up on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Alexander gets into the paint, swings it out. Bello wants the three. Gets it! Oh, Bello! 8-point lead. 3:20 to go. Trey still outside the arc. Now looks to get into the paint. Wrap into the corner. Here's another three. Baylor! 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 Oh, baby! I love Baylor Shireman.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Baby!
AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Before we get to our friend Matt DeMarinis, want to remind you about our other friends over at the Omaha Supernovas.
Got a lot of friends.
We have so many friends. We're so popular.
Hello,
GP.
friends. Hello.
We have great friends over at the Omaha Supernovas, and they will be back in town to hang out with us. Well, all of us, really, just us as a city.
Hello, friends.
Here on March 14th at the CHI Health Center. That's at 7 p.m. against the Atlanta Vibe. They will be on the road one more time against the Orlando Valkyries before then, which you can check out how to follow along that one at supernovas.com. That's also where you can buy tickets for March 14th. You can check out merchandise, check out their schedule, anything you need to know, supernovas.com. That's the place to be. But make sure you go get tickets for March 14th. Listen, we did pretty good last time. Got like 11-9, I think, was the last number here. Really want to crack that 12,000.
12.
I really want 12. I said I wanted 12 last time. I got to 11-9. Like, guys, just give me 12. All right, that's all I'm asking for.
Another 100.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 90. Like, come on, we can get there. I believe in us. Let's do it.
2 R. Kelly references and one Breed. She's got that vibe and the born into the 90s.
I don't even know what.
I know it's a little. Listen,
the only R. Kelly I know is from Space Jam. So.
I used to think
the rest
that
of the,
Matt was on hold.
The rest of the
I don't even recognize what
the rest of the R. Kelly references get a little problematic for me, so I try not to talk about those. But make sure you go check out supernovas.com, where an unproblematic R&B guy, Jason Derulo, is involved. So we will hopefully see you out.
Nice weave.
You know, I'm trying to keep things. Listen, it's
nice weave.
It's a balancing act here. That's March 14th. Go to supernovas.com for tickets. On the line, on hold, as we mentioned, is our other good friend, Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Matty, what's going on, bud?
Listen, boys, this is the third time I've been on now last couple of weeks. And the first one, you guys just got done talking about when it was okay to say the N-word because of the arrows. And now we're dropping R. Kelly references. And, like, how much?
That's DB.
No,
that's DB.
Well, I'm not talking to myself.
That's DB. I mean, sometimes I think you might be. I don't know. I don't really know. Matt, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm not really ready for to come. But
you missed out on our Stevie Nicks tangent this morning. We also had we had some Russell Wilson in there as well. It was, we're all over the place.
Matt, how much could you dislike? How much could you dislike somebody that
still work with them
and go $85 million to go away? Like, what's that kind of disdain look like for you? I mean, can you imagine?
No, I'd have to. I mean, that's crazy petty money right there.
I mean, $85 million to hit the bricks, and you have to pay him a little bit.
And then you have to find a new quarterback and pay him.
Wow. I mean,
if I were Russ there, I'm just like, I'm depending on how competitive I still am, I might just call it a day, because that's just like, look, all right, if there's trying to be some things going on here that with me that I'm just gonna take the $85 million and live a good life. Yeah. But I mean, like, because if you're like, you have to wonder if there is something there about yourself, right? If you're being paid that much money just to not be there anymore.
Yeah,
I think I would.
Well, Mr. Greenspan over here, or excuse me, Ravi Buffett was trying to convince me yesterday that the Browns should do the same thing with Deshaun Watson. I'm like, who's just giving away that kind of money?
Apparently the Broncos.
Until he figured out D. Watts owed another $200 million.
Yeah, that's a bigger number.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
No, Matt, I think you would have to have a certain level of self-awareness as Russell Wilson that I'm not sure he possesses to be like, maybe I'm the problem here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Someone give $85 million to leave their premises. I'm like, hold up, look. I mean, I would be like, I'll be like, okay, I'll do it. I won't argue. I'd go home and wonder if there's some things.
Yeah, he's not gonna go home and wonder though. He's gonna go home and be like, let's ride. He's gonna go try.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he's there's not many things he needs to wonder about. His life's good.
Yeah, those days are over. For Matt DeMarinis, who's the Big East Coach of the Year?
Ooh, there have been some good ones in this year, right? Between Thad and Shaheen have done from the bottom to the middle top exceeding expectations whole thing, right? And that's usually what gets you the win. But Hurley was picked 4th.
3rd or 4th, depending on the.
Yeah.
Because what was it, Marquette then Creighton?
I think it was 3rd. I think it was Marquette, Creighton, UConn.
I think he was picked below Nova too. They were. So that's what I mean. The coaches voted him 4th, and they're going to vote they're going to vote for the winner now. So,
Okay.
4th run away first, essentially, with dealing with Klingon injury, Castle injury, obviously no Hawkins, Andre Jackson or Sonogo. The way he ran away with it, I think he's the front runner. I'd be surprised if he doesn't win it, but I think Shaheen Holloway is also going to get quite a bit of love too. So I wouldn't be surprised.
How is Shaheen's job better than Kim English's though?
Personnel probably, like Devin Carter.
Yeah, but you got the Bryce Hopkins injury with English, right?
You do, but I guess like those two being back still kept the Providence expectations pretty high. Shaheen's expectations with that roster weren't. I mean, I don't know. I picked them. Where did I pick them? 10th, maybe. And then I don't know where the coaches had him, but I don't think it was much higher than that. So I mean, his only like real stud coming back was Kadari, and he was kind of injury prone, right? In and out of the lineup a lot throughout his career. So how dependable is that? And then, he thought his backcourt was going to be really good coming into the year. I think he had that quote early on in preseason camp where he felt like he had the best backcourt in the Big East, which everybody kind of raised their eyebrows at. But I mean, when you look at the way Alamir Dawes has played and Kadari Richmond, I mean, they've kind of been, when they've been good, Seton Hall's been good. And then Dre Davis might be the most improved player in the league. I don't know. I'm trying to think who else would even be in the running to take that from him, because even whether they've been good or bad, he's been good. He's been Mr. Dependable essentially for them. And, for him to have kind of a breakout year as a senior, I think there's a lot that has to do with the development of what Shaheen and his staff are doing there in year 2 there. Because he was kind of giving up on. And so I think that's gonna garner a lot of praise, whether it comes in a Coach of the Year vote or just, people in press conferences going, if it weren't for Danny Hurley, I would have voted for Shaheen, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Hey, Matt, we're going to go national with you a little bit here before we get back to Creighton. Who do you trust out of these teams? We've been kind of doing this exercise a lot this week. Would you trust more Illinois or Kentucky?
I think I trust Illinois more.
Because you don't like Calipari.
Well, that's separate. I mean, I think Kentucky's got. I think they're dangerous to a degree. They literally do not stop anybody.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say.
Neither does Illinois, though.
Defensively, Kentucky is awful.
So is Illinois.
Yeah.
Illinois is very bad defensively.
But Illinois is more battle tested. I think that's the difference. Like they played better.
You think the Big Ten is better than the SEC this year?
I think it means these group of guys.
Oh, this group of guys.
Yeah, and also not just the Big Ten though too. They've played, Florida Atlantic, Marquette. Like they scheduled tough. I didn't necessarily I don't know. Kentucky scheduled what they scheduled, but I think Illinois has proven that their floor is higher. They won't. And then I just trust their dudes. Like they're more experienced, I think, and I don't know. I don't really love either team, but I trust Illinois a little bit more for some reason that I really can't articulate right now. I don't know. I think I trust them more to get the stops down the stretch or to get the stops early in the game that helps them build a big lead. I don't trust Kentucky to get stops at any point in the game. I just expect them to try to outscore everybody, and when you're playing in the NCAA tournament, that's really hard to do. You know, I just think that's not a good way to live.
So let me ask. So along those lines, if we can separate, because I kind of like the exercise separating the coach. It's pretty good on the fly. I should practice that. So while I got you hot, can you separate Tennessee from Barnes? Because if you can, then you got to think Tennessee's pretty good.
I do think Tennessee's pretty good, and I also think Barnes is pretty good. Because I know that the whole thing with him is the NCAA tournaments, right? And
yeah,
that is a factor.
No, I know, but I've never been like that. I've never really judged a coach on that kind of thing. I know that's a topic that happens a lot. You know, there's guys out there that haven't made deep runs or haven't gone as far with elite talent. I think Cal is one of them. And I think there's a point where that becomes just because I know the NCAA tournament is such a crapshoot. You know, you're one bad day and you're going home, or it's one bad matchup and it's not your day. So I don't really judge a coach on that. I think Rick Barnes has been a really consistent program builder, sustainer. So I like him more than the narrative, I guess, if you will. But I don't know. I'm not just being a contrarian there. I think they're a really solid squad, and I think that'd be hard to play against. For a lot of teams.
They got a lot of ways that they can get you, and they are long. Let me ask you. Let me hop over to the Big Ten real quick. So you got Coach Collins, obviously, and if you're talking about further to go, then Nebraska was obviously picked low, or had a little less to work with than Northwestern. At least coming back, who's your coach of the year in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I don't see how. Here's the problem with this. Like, if you're asking me, like, who's going to win it or who I think should win it.
Who do you think should win it?
I think Hoiberg should win it. Just because I think there's – and this isn't just to disparage Northwestern at all, but there's a level of pressure at Nebraska that I don't think exists anywhere. You know, I think there's so much – talked about this before because the fan base is so big that anytime you lose, it just – the weight of the world just jumps on your back. And not that I don't know the dynamics fully at Northwestern, but it's not that. You know what I mean? They don't have that pressure. So I think it's easier to quite a few levels to go about your business and build your team up because the negativity doesn't ratchet up through the roof after every single loss or poor performance,
Mm-hmm.
But Hoiberg's been under a lot of pressure. You know, he came in with high expectations. He has not even come close to fulfilling them. And, this was a make or break year. And his demeanor has kind of showed it like every time. I mean, every time, even with like the media, when they start asking him about, how the team's playing or where they're tracking, like he just like the competitor in him comes right out and he goes, well, we're not worried about, 2 weeks from down the line, we're worried about tomorrow, worried about the next opponent. He's been locked in. And I think the way they're playing too, I know it's a home heavy schedule. I know it's not a great non-con. I know that they are a really different team on the road so far, but if he finishes, if they don't stub their toe against Michigan and they get, at least a day or two into the Big Ten tournament, I have a hard time imagining that Fred Hoiberg didn't do the best coaching job in this league.
We're talking with Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. All right, let's zero in on Creighton a little bit here, since that's, I guess, technically what you cover, even though we're just running you around the country here. Let's get to Creighton. I'm kind of thinking back on the senior night game and the win over Marquette. How much do you consider the absence of Kolek and Iguodaro when gauging how good of a win that is?
How good of a win it is, I would gauge it, but the performance is different. I think, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's to that win because Kolek, something to play. I don't think the committee's that high at it. I think they're going to be like, yeah, you should have beat them. So nothing to it with from a win standpoint of value. What it is, that I fully believe that not a lot of people, I guess, take into account is it's really hard to prepare for a team you're not expecting to play. I don't think that goes into. I watched a couple of years ago when Creighton drew Kansas State in the first round of the NCAA tournament, and Dean Wade was up in the air. His status was unknown. That was a really, really hard week for Creighton. From a preparation standpoint, they didn't really know what to expect out of K-State, and K-State hit them. Come out, Dean Wade doesn't play. You know, he was game time decision all the way up to it, and he doesn't play. And then a couple guys that they kind of weren't accounting for or hadn't done what they had done went off against them, and it's just a really hard thing to prepare for. And I think that was what the Marquette game was like, because they prepared for the things that Marquette kind of does without Kolek on the floor, even though there wasn't much film on that. They were kind of prepared for him to play or not. The Oso thing, they were not prepared for at all. So, and then when you think about how Creighton is built, they're not just a roll the ball out and check you up one-on-one and shut your guy down type of team. They're a preparation team. They're a team. You know, they have to practice against tendencies, get familiar with them, and execute their game plan that way. So, but the Marquette game was an adjust-on-the-fly game. And, you know, offensively, I felt like Creighton was getting pretty much whatever it wanted all day, so I wasn't really worried about at that end of the floor, as long as they didn't get three-point shot happy, I guess. And then defensively, it was just about figuring it out. And at what point Creighton was going to do that was basically when the game was going to be over. But it was a really hard game for Creighton, a harder game than people will give it credit for, considering what Marquette was missing. But based on the way Creighton plays, prepares, executes, it was a harder game than people realize.
So let me ask you this: as I'm kind of looking at this deal with Creighton and the way that they're built, Coach Mack has had a thing, obviously, the way that he has some non-negotiables to even be in the program, and usually guys take a year and they've got to practice against their guys, and so I get his success with transfers, but at the end, he's had some good ones, right? When you look at Shireman in just 2 short years, where does he belong, do you think, in terms of, I'm hesitant to say all time, but his numbers are extraordinary in terms of the Pantheon. Where does are you separating Jays from the transfers? Is it a Jay thing in its totality when you look at Shireman's impact on what he's meant to this program?
That's a good question, because I think you can do both. I think you can have both conversations, because it is 2 years. You know, that's not. I think as the years go by, we're gonna remember that they were only 2 easier than we do now. I think now the performances are so incredible, the way they're just stacked on top of each other, and the accolades that he's, you know, accruing are so incredible that I think maybe we're forgetting that he's only been here for 2 years, and we just see what we see. But I mean, all time, like, just think about how we compare people. You know, we don't usually talk about the beginning or the point where they weren't the guy. You know, we talk about the best versus their best, right? That's kind of how the comparison is made. I mean, Baylor Shireman's best, like, how does that stack up to everyone else that's worn that jersey? Pretty high up there, you know? Like, it's hard to imagine just the way he affects the game. His leadership, I think, is incredible this year. He's one of the loudest voices in the gym. You know, he's encouraging, he's coaching up guys, whether they're on the scout team or whether they're, you know, going to be out there with him on the floor. He's talking with Mac. You know, they're always batting ideas off each other. Like, he's very unique, you know, in terms of his skill set, his leadership, how locked in he is to the game plan, how much input he has on what they're going to do. He belongs up there with the best that certainly have played for Mac, no question about that. And how far you go back into the Altman era, I don't know if there's many guys you'd take over Baylor either that aren't named Kyle Korver. So, yeah, it's the tail end of an incredible career. And whether you compare him to his transfer counterparts or just the guys who have worn that jersey as true freshmen and beyond, he's he belongs in any group at the top of it.
Matt, as we've got a few minutes left here with you, as you look towards, obviously still Villanova on the schedule, but then you look towards the Big East tournament, the NCAA tournament as well. Do you like how Creighton is currently playing? I know you were impressed with their performance against Marquette, considering the challenges you brought up. Obviously, they've been playing pretty well outside of that St. John's loss. How do you feel about the way they're going heading into postseason play?
I mean, I think they're trending to be one of the teams that can win a national championship. Just based on what I see from them and what I see from the other teams who, I think can do it. I don't think there's separation there. I think it's just about, who plays well on that day. If they end up meeting up. So, yeah, I mean, needless to say, I feel really good about that. I don't know. I mean, you just look at. I just think they know who they are, and they're trying to be the best. That's the old adage, right? Just like do you as well as you possibly can. Don't worry about, trying to, reinvent the wheel as you go along to be something you're not. And I think Creighton is doing that at a really high level. I think the number one thing too, I think the one that's sticking out to me the most as far as maybe what's improved the most that wasn't always there was Trey Alexander's playmaking. I mean, what he's doing in ball screens now, and with both hands, obviously earlier in the year teams were trying to force him left, and he wasn't as comfortable making plays going left, whether it was for himself or set up a teammate. Now I don't think it matters.
And he's become a lot more patient too with utilizing ball screens too. He'll keep it a long time before his decision making. He's gotten, and that's a good point.
The floor so well right now.
Well, remember last week I said him passing out of those doubles.
Yeah,
when he was on his spot in the floor, Matty, where he could hit the step back or the little pull up, and his decision to share it. I was like, he made really good decisions late within those offensive sets.
Yeah, he's been incredible, guys. The film isn't lying. It's honestly, it's insane to watch some of the passes he's making. And then you mentioned the patience too, because he's always been kind of a patient, methodical player. He's never been one to play with a ton of pace, because that kind of gets him a little bit too sped up. But I think he's actually managed to, master that to a degree where he's playing his ideal pace, but he's also seeing everything and still time play on time for his teammates. So I mean, it's really high level stuff that he's doing right now, as when he's got the ball in his hands in those ball screens. So that's a big key to the whole thing.
That's Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Matty, we appreciate it. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Matty.
That's good, fellas.
It's almost like somebody said that Trey Alexander as a point guard might work out. I don't know who said that. We will be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Are you going off the dome there? Are those scripted? Like, if we die, we die. Is that something you just got in the back pocket you're pulling out before the game? Or like, how does that formulate?
Yeah, those are never scripted, though. Sometimes, maybe you have a thought that's in your head, I think at the time, and it's something that was present at Baylor, or something that was present even in the NFL, and for something that was present here is like, sometimes we're so concerned with what if this happens, what if that happens. We're so caught up in the future that we can't just be in the moment, man. And like, we love to play football at practice. We love to compete. When we get to the game and we're so worried about the result. And, you study like the Bushido code and the samurai, like wake up every day and they dream their own death so that, that if it does happen, they've already prepared for it. And it kind of just came off of that. Like stop worrying about what could go wrong, and let's just go out there for a couple hours and live. Let's just be in the moment and live, and not worry about what people are tweeting about us or people are saying about us. And but it's all very sort of visceral and in the moment. They only post the good ones though. There's some really bad ones, I'm sure too.
We're halfway through the show here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla.
Hi.
Reminder, using your seatbelt saves lives and prevents injuries, but only if it is properly worn. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Yeah, when you're playing football, you can kind of do the samurai thing and imagine your own death, but don't do that when you're driving. Wear your seatbelt, guys.
Ravi here for Team Bushido.
I love that. So I'm gonna go. Can I go like sci-fi nerd on you here real quick?
Listen, man, you went Stevie Nicks.
I figured Stevie Nicks was in your wheelhouse.
Like Sean Penn and Duvall in Colors. I mean, it's like.
Would I go Sean Penn? I didn't go to Sean Penn. Not on purpose, at least.
Have you ever seen Colors?
No.
Oh man. Okay, never mind. You don't get the joke.
I did not get the joke.
It's about gangs.
Oh yeah, she's a gangster.
Should I say The Godfather? Or?
Yeah, Godfather, Goodfellas. Mob movies are kind of more
your speed.
That's kind of my wheelhouse.
Not so much gang related.
Yeah, no, I'm a big.
He probably hasn't seen that either.
Nope.
Well played.
I don't know what. I don't. Know
I caught that.
What
well
that
done.
reference is.
It's a movie.
All right. Well, yeah, that's not for me. I'm really more of like a mob movie guy than a.
I got you. Welcome to the family.
That's a terrible Brando.
He was so overdone.
So you wouldn't do like New Jack City or anything?
Like,
I haven't seen New Jack City. No,
he's trying too hard.
He's doing a thing.
Yeah,
he's doing a thing. That's all right. No, so I'm gonna go Star Trek on you here.
Oh Lord,
no, that's the original. I'm going Next Generation here.
Oh yeah, I'm for sure out.
Yeah, what are you doing? Come on.
Oh, Next Generation's way better than the
Okay,
yeah.
stop.
I mean,
Sir Patrick Stewart's the GOAT. That's my
Professor
guy.
Xavier?
Yeah. He's the man. Patrick Stewart's a
kinda.
Well, he's a good dude. I think. I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Shatner's the GOAT.
No, come on.
Shatner is the GOAT.
No.
Hey,
Shatner.
Are you guys?
He's such a dramatic. He's such a better dramatic actor than Sir Patrick is.
Zip it, Marty.
Now the new generation series is better because it's newer. It's got better effects, all that kind of stuff. It's written better. It's not based in the '60s. That sort of thing. But
you can't take Shatner over Patrick
Stewart.
You
take Shatner every day over Stewart. Every single day. You're basing that. You're probably basing that off the X-Men movie. It doesn't make sense.
No, I'm basing it off of Star Trek because I like Star Trek: The Next Generation. The X-Men movies are nice.
You're basing it off the new Star Trek, then the one the series that he did by himself.
I'm basing it off of.
Well, you need to take the bias out of it and just put everything on an equal playing field, and you would notice that Shatner is so much better.
Just because Shatner's like in your wheelhouse, because
every time you guys say his name, I get nervous.
Shatner,
yes. Just call him William. Bill.
He is such a more dramatic, just better actor.
No, that's patently false. You may prefer him on Star Trek, but Patrick Stewart is actually a better actor.
How are you gonna weave in
so the Klingon,
maximizing?
So no, it's about being ready to die. The Klingons in Next Generation, when they are going into battle or something, they go, "Today's a good day to die," right?
They got that from Maximus Decimus Meridius.
Well, or maybe from the samurais. They got that mentality of
or 300 too. My man Leonidas referenced it a ton.
Next Generations actually predates both of those.
Yeah, that was in the 90s.
So
okay,
it's not. Maybe they took it from the Klingons. That's what we're doing here. I'm just saying. You never know. But you've got James Worthy was in one of those.
Like North Carolina Lakers,
yeah.
James Worthy.
He played he played a Klingon in an episode of Next Generation.
He's aged very weird, so I'm not even.
No, this was like he was playing. This was in the early 90s.
James Worthy is out there. Okay,
that's fine. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, but they say today's a good day to die, and that's what that reminded me of when he's talking about the samurai code and.
Yeah, but you kind of missed the bulk of that point, though. For me,
what
was staying in the moment? Like, stop thinking negatively.
So to me, it was about it. Yeah, stop thinking. It was
like that's a pet peeve of mine, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll give you scenarios, and I can't spend time talking to people that always take the worst outcome. Like, there's a 50-50 chance.
Oh, there's not always though.
That their thought could be right. Okay, so it could be good or it could be bad.
See, here's the problem with the 50-50 chance is assuming that every scenario has equal opportunity of outcome.
Of
That's
outcomes?
Not true.
No, your vantage point is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
You have every opportunity. You can relent, you can live in fear, or you can look at it from. I just had this conversation yesterday, and this was more medical.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that plays more to your hands about, well, I don't really know what the outcome is, but you can be positive.
Sure. You can be aware of the possible negative outcomes and not live in the possible negative outcomes.
100%.
And I think we're closer on what we took from Coach Rule than initially thought.
We don't have to be.
What I thought from that was,
you want to hold hands, kindred spirits?
You should bump it up. You can remove the fear of negative outcomes from your mind. You know they exist. That's fine. But you can't live in those while you're trying to prepare for a football game, or if you're trying to prepare for a medical situation, or if you're trying to prepare for a job situation. You can't live in the possibility of the negative outcomes. Acknowledge them, know they're there, and then move on trying to achieve the most positive outcome, right? And that's where he says, if we die, we die. It's like, hey, we already know that's a possibility, right? We know that outcome's out there. We don't have to fear that outcome because we know it exists, right? Most of the time, what we fear is the unknown. So acknowledging the negative outcome can actually allow you to live in a moment where you can try and achieve the positive outcome. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But and I think one of the reasons that he and I get along so well is it doesn't always have to be rainbows and butterflies for you to be able to function. Like, I think he embraces the opportunities to be competitive and hang in there.
Mm-hmm.
He just comes off as a person that doesn't want it too easy, that doesn't want it kind of cakey. Like, I think he wants you I think he wants you in the moment. And I'm just always a guy. I talk about it all the time. What do I say? Stay right here.
Mm-hmm.
Stay right here. And the better that people can control that, the more that you just get to maximize. It's like, was it DJ? Somebody was explaining something to me Saturday morning on the phone. I was driving somewhere, and he was telling me the difference between like worry and doubt. And I think it had to do with predictive outcomes is above my pay grade. But the point of the exercise is basically controlling what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your emotions.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
you don't get too many freebies like that. Not in life.
No. And there's a million different ways to kind of say the same thing, right? Control what you can control. If we die, we die. Like, stay here right in the moment with me. Like, we're all essentially saying the same thing, right? Of do not let the either fear or anxiety or worry of negative outcomes control the way you operate, right? Because that's when you have set yourself up for failure, right? There's, the last staff would always talk, no fear of failure, no fear of failure. And then they would actively seemingly do things that appeared to show a fear of failure, right? There's a difference between saying, hey, this is what we're about, and being about that. And I think that's the biggest difference we've seen so far between the two staffs.
Yeah, like I think there's times he intentionally creates chaos.
I think he wants to do it the hard way.
Especially like daily.
Like,
it's always something that they have to overcome.
Is that too far, like that he wants to do it the hard way?
He is the guy that prefers bad weather and things not to be all hunky. Maybe.
I think he prefers to do it the hard way. We can get into that a little bit.
I just think his fear of complacency is at a high level.
We can get into that a little bit later. We've got Bill Hurd coming up next.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. We are joined now by Bill Hurd. He is the Gretna basketball coach as they get ready to start the state tournament. Coach, how are you this morning?
We're doing well. Thanks for having me.
Coach, how we doing, buddy? It's very good to hear your voice.
Good to hear from you, too.
Coach, as we get before we get into the game itself and the state tournament, obviously this has been a really tough season with everything going on in not just with the Gretna basketball team, but in the Gretna community as well with the passing of Coach Feakin. Just how have you been able to help guide this team and have them focus on games when I'm guessing sometimes it felt like the games maybe didn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, no, I think, truthfully, I'm not sure they matter that much now, being completely honest. I mean, they do. They matter to our kids, and our kids are gonna be competitive, and our community is gonna show up, and all those good things. But you know, if tomorrow doesn't go well, it ain't gonna be the end of the world for us. Our kids are gonna be just fine. So in a way, it's allowed us to maybe be a little freer than what I've ever probably had a group play like. Just because I think there's just I think this year's maybe offered some perspective for our kids and certainly for myself that, you know, there's a lot bigger things, and what our kids have done nothing to, I mean, they've just been unbelievable in this run, and it's just cemented the fact that, like, whatever happens at a ball game in the next couple of days, it's going to be all good.
I obviously following you for years, watching some of these young guys, knowing a lot of folks in the community, you guys just don't blink, right? You highly competitive. You typically don't flinch. How much is it that your team is so mature where you can live and exude the message of it's only a game, knowing full well they're going to maximize during that game because you've told them it's only a game. It has this weird effect of power when you explain it to your players.
Yeah, it's Damon, this definitely changed my perspective on coaching and kids and all of it, I think. To start with, this group's a veteran group, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, they've played since they were freshmen. They've been in wars. So I think there's part of that just comes with being seniors and your last go and having been through this. So I think that's probably where it starts. And then I think, you know, when you go through this stuff, you know, two of our seniors stood up and spoke at Coach's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's grown men stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I struggle to do it. And when you go through some of those things, I just think, I think it truly does become just a game. I do. I think our kids are gonna. I know they're gonna line up and compete because that's what we do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be concerned about that. But you know, situations, environments, all that kind of stuff. It's just not going to move our boys.
It's interesting. You guys, just the way you play, and they played so many big games and it's the senior class as a whole, right, across the state. I was talking with Coach Etz about this in the first hour. There's the depth of good players, maybe not as high on the high end, but the depth of quality basketball that's been played over this senior group's run across the state has been at an incredible level, not only locally, but on the national level too. Do you remember a group, and again, maybe not as high end, but there's a ton of players that have played high school basketball 3 and for some 4 years at the varsity level?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you know, to your point, we're sitting here as a 7 seed and Prep sitting there as an 8 seed.
I know, right?
You know, that's not a, you know, that's not a typical 7 and 8 seed. So I don't remember a group that's been around this long in terms of as a class. And I get that maybe there's not the high end piece, but man, they're high end competitors. I know that because we've seen them all. I mean, some of these games over the last 3 years, I mean, they're just wars. They're just kids going at it and about the right things. And I don't know. This is going to be really good basketball over the next few days, I think.
Let me because you can go global here. Like, how much of the fact that you think there's familiarity with all these kids playing against one another that actually factors into these games? I'm not necessarily saying familiarity breeds contempt, but we're going to see it with Lincoln Southeast, like Hilkeman and Taymor and these guys. Listen, they don't like Westside, and there's no secret about it. They play different against Westside, and I've seen it over the last handful of years. Like, there's no awe when Pekorski sees, Jaden Jackson or Dotzler from a year ago, just because they've seen them so much, and it is kind of personal. Like, do you think the summer and the high competitive level of basketball balances out the high school year?
Yeah, I 100% think that's the case. You always want to beat your buddies, right? And I 100% think there's a super high level that comes in when you're playing each other.
Uh-huh.
My some of my coaches and I were just talking about this the other day. When Coach Pekin and I used to play each other.
Yeah.
So we played each other 8 or 9 times.
Yeah.
We wanted to beat the heck out of each other. And then when it's over, you call each other and you talk about it.
Oh.
And I think that's the same thing here. I mean, these kids, they know each other. They're connected through summer ball. They're connected through pretty much everything that they do now. I 100% think there's an extra competitive element that comes into it, Coach.
As a defensive mind, there's lots of ways that Millard North can get you on any given night in terms of scoring. You guys aren't real deep. How are you kind of managing the scout and being ready to play at a high level with a opponent that you know has a ton of firepower?
Yeah, I think that's just where you start. They got a bunch of guys that can score the basketball. Well, I'm not sure we have the answer to that, Coach. We've not had a ton of success with Millard North over the last few years. So you're talking to a guy who's shooting in the dark, I think, right now. You're going to have to score some. Like that's kind of where it's got to start. You got to put the ball in the basket a little bit against them. If you can't score, it ain't going to matter. Defensively, you kind of hope to slow them down. You're not going to stop them. They got too many weapons. So we just got to do our best to try to hang in there and take a shot at it at the end, I think.
Coach, you guys have played in a ton of close games this year, big games this year against marquee opponents. You've seen almost everybody that's in this tournament field at some point during the course of the season, and you've gone toe-to-toe with pretty much all of them. Millard North, on the other hand, we talked to Coach Etz earlier, not played a lot of close games this year. Do you think, on the surface –
shoot, outside of Gretna.
I mean, yeah, outside of the game with you guys, do you think that might give you a little bit of advantage if things get tight late?
Yeah, I do. I actually think going out to Kearney last week in districts gives us an advantage.
How about that environment?
Unbelievable.
It's
best high school environment I've ever played.
It's crazy. I said it when we played them early in the year, and that was just a regular season game. It's an incredible environment.
I am so glad that our kids got to go do that. When we started looking at districts and, at first you got a little bit of the woe is me thing. We're sitting there with, I think we're 19-5 or something like that.
In A7, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, with no shot of the wild card. Like, that was gone. We had to win. And looking back at it, I am so glad that we got to go do that. The environment, just everything, all of it was perfect for us. So yeah, I do. I think that helps us. I mean, our kids have been through the back to the wall piece a little bit. And I think there's a mindset when you know that you have to win to advance. And I think that impacts your practices. I think that impacts your preparation. And I just think our kids are maybe kind of comfortable being in that right now.
So I'm taking my dad hat off. This is like the analyst guy that's seen a ton of basketball. I always talk about an X factor for each team, in my opinion. No pressure here, but I think Cade Cook is a guy that, whether it's a little rim protection or whether Rollins gets a little streaky or what, like, we know about your backcourt, and he seems to be a guy that can be a little bit of a difference without putting pressure on one specific guy. Are there ways that you think that you can attack and defend Millard North that maybe don't just jump right off the page at you?
Well, yeah, Damon, I think, you mentioned Cade. To start with, Cade in Kearney he was a dude. He goes for
it's long. He can shoot it. He can handle it. Like, he's got a lot of versatility.
I think what you're seeing with him right now is this is the best basketball that he's ever played. I think he is just touching where he can get to.
I agree. I agree.
His best days are in front, but we've got a couple other guys. Alec Wilkins is a kid that gets lost in the.
He plays so hard.
Yes, he does.
Oh,
Joey Beef
another
Joey
one.
Beef needs to be in that conversation. I mean, those two kids, their motors, their intensity, their toughness. It's what seniors should do.
Coach, we appreciate it. Good luck starting off tomorrow in the state tournament. You're playing my Millard North Mustangs, but I do hope you play well tomorrow and let the best team win. I'm not going to say go Dragons.
It's a brutal half of the bracket, man. Gosh, I do wish you
the best luck, Coach.
Coach, appreciate you.
Yeah. Appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you.
Coming up next, we've got Brent Sobleski from Bleacher Report, NFL analyst. We will talk some NFL coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I think they want to see your ability to not only command the room, but how you may lead or how you respond to certain questions that may make you uncomfortable.
Obviously, somebody's going to take a chance on me and say, this kid could change our organization, our franchise, to be the face of the franchise. So
my dad put me in football. when I was 4. My mom didn't let me play tackle football my first year. I thought I was going to love it. At 4 years old, I did. And the next year after that, I was a bit too aggressive for flag football, so my mom let me play tackle.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now on the phone by Brent Sobleski from Bleacher Report. Brent, how are you this morning?
Doing well. We're recovering from that combine hangover that we all get. We're there for a week.
Wasn't it? It was crazy. I guess the wide receivers stole the show with their depth, and they're excellent at the top, obviously, with Harrison Jr. But where would you put this class times aside?
Well, when you look at the wide receiver class, obviously it's deep. Is it as deep as we've come to expect when you see more than 30 guys come off the board? I want to go quite that far, but at the same time, I think this is a byproduct of just the evolution of the game. We see so many wide receivers that are high quality with differing skill sets because of the 7-on-7 nature that these young men grow up in, right? Whether you're starting in the middle school level into high school into college, these young men are far more developed than we've ever seen, which is why we get these instant ability to impact offenses, unlike, say, offensive linemen, which is the irony in this class that if you're really looking at one position that people are excited about, it's offensive tackles. So to your specific question, I think it's a very good class if we're among the wide receivers, maybe not quite as deep as we've seen, but still you're going to find guys in rounds 2, 3, 4 that are going to enter NFL lineups and produce immediately.
Brent, staying on the wide receivers here for a minute, how much did, say, a Keon Coleman, who didn't run the fastest time in the world, one of maybe the only few guys that didn't run a great time in that class, how much does that hurt his stock, or were teams kind of expecting not a blazing time from him?
Well, it's misleading, right? And I'm not trying to rebut you in your point, because you're absolutely correct that you run a 4.6.
No, but in the gauntlet, he was super fast, right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
And that's football testing. That's where it depends on where you want to put your emphasis. If you want to change the emphasis on the syllable, it depends on which way you want to look at it. So if you go back a year ago, who was the fastest guy in the gauntlet? Do you guys know?
No.
It's some guy named Puka Nakua. I think you probably heard of him.
Again, not a blazer. Almost looks cumbersome when he runs, but he sure does get open a lot.
Exactly. So now the difference is when you have Keon, you're talking about a 6'3", almost 6'4" wide receiver that's about 210 pounds. So watching him on film, you realize he doesn't have the best top end speed, but that was never his biggest selling point. It's his body control, what he can do with the ball in the air, and essentially be that big target to create a larger room for error when it comes to the quarterback that he's thrown to. So does it maybe move him back a little bit in the first round, maybe even early second round, possibly, but I don't think it's a telltale sign of teams being totally disappointed based purely on the 40 time.
I get Harrison Jr., and I totally didn't want to dominate this with wide receivers, but I get the Harrison Jr. safe pick, top receiver, but boy, I tell you, contested catches and guys not running open all the time. Odunze really, I think, pushes some. When you look at the top end of this class, is it Harrison and everybody else, or is there a couple of guys that you're thinking, Neighbors stole the show? Like, is there a guy that you're like, I don't know, man. I think they may be at least in the same neighborhood.
For me, it's Harrison and everyone else. Now, this is my 21st draft class. He is the best prospect I've seen since Calvin Johnson, if not better. Now, I know that's a huge statement, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but when you go from a comparison 1-to-1 when they were coming into the NFL, Harrison is a better wide receiver right now based on his ability to run routes. Now, if you go back and remember Calvin Johnson, obviously
coming out of Georgia Tech.
Coming out of Georgia Tech. Obviously, Johnson was 6'5", 230 pounds, ran a 4.39 in someone else's shoes. You just can't replicate that. But he also came from an offense where it was basically a triple option. So his only route he ran was a go route. Harrison, we're talking about 6'3", almost 6'4", 209 pounds, and he runs route like his Hall of Fame father. He's been well taught. And so, again, I'm not trying to put him on the same level as a Hall of Famer. I'm just comparing them as when they came into the league. And that's why I look at him as the guy that's the best I've seen, at least since Calvin Johnson. Now, with that said, you talk about a Malik Neighbors and you talk about a Rome Odunze. These guys are number one wide receivers basically in any other class, right? They are the guy that's going to be wide receiver one, that's going to be go to a team, put up big numbers, to have the skill sets necessary to succeed in the NFL. It's just that's how special of a talent that I view Marvin Harrison.
We're talking with Brent Sobleski from Bleacher Report. All right, Brent, let's get off the wide receivers for a second. I do want to talk about quarterbacks. And I know we didn't see many of the top guys, at least in terms of the testing numbers, but a few of them did throw. Are you of the mind that Michael Penix helped himself the most with his performance at the Combine, or is there somebody else in that quarterback group that you were maybe a little bit more enamored with this weekend?
Whoa. We got to see Sam Hartman in that glorious head of hair.
I was more enamored by the beard.
Let me tell you, gentlemen, standing there in that media room, he is as beautiful as you think he is. And if he doesn't make it in the NFL, he should be on Days of Our Lives here in less than 10 years, let me tell you. Okay. Anyhow, all joking aside, the guy that really impressed me was J.J. McCarthy. And it's probably not for the reasons that a lot of people expect. Obviously, there are legitimate questions about J.J. McCarthy, with the fact he's only 21 years old, his lack of experience, lack of quality passing reps based on the offense that he played in, which we know that he can make the types of throws that he makes. We just haven't seen it consistently, particularly late in games when things were close because Michigan was so good. What I saw, as a passer, is I saw his ability essentially to throw the ball really well. But what really made me gravitate towards him was exactly that. When you saw him in the media, he had that charisma. When you saw him on the field around other players, it just seemed natural to him that guys wanted to be around him. And people will look, they're probably listening to me like, well, that's dumb. Why would you look at stuff like that? Believe me when I say this, NFL teams are looking at that as much or more closely than they are the actual throws he's making during the workout. And seeing that and seeing how it wasn't forced, it was just, he was one of the dudes, right? They just wanted to be around him. He was the quarterback. To me, that said a lot and kind of finally was the tipping point to where I thought to myself, you know what? He may be and probably will be a legitimate top 10 quarterback.
Yeah. I and not to cut you off, Ravi, I kind of was saying that what the interview room and the moxie and kind of real life savvy for McCarthy that's propelled him be a little bit of the perceived immaturity or bigger than the sum of the pieces and work the opposite for Caleb Williams?
100%. 100%. Because one of the things you hear murmuring throughout Indianapolis is that potential attitude with Caleb Williams. And I know you have to be confident playing that position. And I know he's been everything what most people expect him to become when he entered the collegiate ranks as a 5-star, and he's been spectacular just from pure talent perspective. He has everything you want in position. Is that something that's going to translate well once he's in an NFL locker room with grown men? And I don't necessarily have that answer. And I know that I heard on the down low that maybe that confidence kind of veers towards arrogance. And so that's a question that teams have to answer, and they have to be comfortable with him, whether that's number 1 overall, number 2 overall, or so on and so forth. And for me, the way we look at it, while that doesn't press a guy like McCarthy above Caleb Williams, of course you can't overlook the natural ability. But for the Bleacher Report scouting department, we do not have Caleb as quarterback 1. We have him as QB2 behind Drake May. We see May as the guy that has the prototypical size, arm, makes the layered throws, has the ability to create as well. It just does more things that you expect from an NFL perspective, and also the type of attitude you expect to really walk into that. And it's not, again, trying to downplay what Caleb Williams is as a prospect. It's simply that nitpicking that goes on with elite prospects to differentiate between those guys at the top.
So, Brent, if you've got Drake May at number 1, what would your concerns be about him? Obviously, we talked about the concerns with Caleb Williams, which are not really physical tool related. They're more headspace, mindset, whatever related there. What are the concerns with Drake May? Because nobody's a sure thing, right?
No, absolutely not. Not even Marvin Harrison Jr. As much as I just showered him with praise, there's always little things you can pick apart on these guys. With May, a lot of it's going to be post snap processing, right? He played in an offense, in the Phil Longo offense for a lot of his collegiate career, who then moved on to Wisconsin. But it's also the same offense that we once saw at Ole Miss, right, where there was question marks about DK Metcalf and AJ Brown and those guys coming into the NFL. So when you see it, how is he going to essentially make them go from 1 to 2 to 3 consistently in his reads at the NFL level? Can he do it? Absolutely. But is it consistent enough right now to where you're fully comfortable with it? Absolutely not. So I think when you look at May, he has all those tools. It's very much, let me make a comparison. I hate player comparisons, but again, this is 1-to-1 at the collegiate level coming into the NFL, not what he is today. And that's Justin Herbert, right? Do you guys remember how we viewed Justin Herbert? He was coming out of that Oregon offense, which a lot of people call gimmicky at the time. Still do, technically, even though it's a different regime at this juncture. But Bo Nix is facing that. But much like Herbert at the time, you knew he had all the gifts. You knew he had the ability to be a top-end NFL quarterback. But how is he going to adjust based on what was asked of him at a much higher level and far more in depth? And I think with May, that's exactly what you're thinking as well.
I think I like Penix more than most. I certainly like him more than Daniels. But having said that, there were some pre-snap stuff against Michigan. I felt like Michigan did a really good job. Now, is Will Johnson probably the next big-time corner? Sure. I didn't love Adunze in that one against Johnson. But having said all that, I like the facts Penix has kind of struggled a little. He turned it over a little against Indiana. He took tough coaching from Grubb. He's got a big arm. Like, am I seeing what I want to see in Penix, or are you kind of vibing with me on his ascent?
It's just, it all depends, because I don't have all the information available to me. And that's really the biggest part of his evaluation. We've seen him come up publicly and try to get ahead of the narrative when it comes to his injuries that his doctors has cleared him. Supposedly, for the report from the NFL Combine, is he's been cleared medically. But look, the history speaks for itself. You're talking about 2 ACL tears in the same knee. You're talking about 2 bad shoulders at one point at Indiana. Didn't essentially become a full-time starter until he went to Washington. To his credit, was exceptional at Washington and started every game with 25 straight games, and he played phenomenally well. But he also benefited from the arguably, or in this case, this year, past season case, the best offensive line in football. He does struggle when muddied in pocket. He doesn't move particularly well to navigate around. I get up a little worried about his footwork and the inconsistency there, because if you watch, he has such a good arm, and the way he can spin it, which is, I mean, he can cut through steel with the way he spins that football. But at the same time, if you watch closely, the weight transfer balance from his back foot to his front foot tends to be off, and that's why you only get certain level throws where he's always trying to throw through a wall and doesn't always layer them very well. So these are just question marks I have. Do I love his mentality? Do I love everything you said about coming with the adversity and just his natural throwing ability? Absolutely. Are there questions why that's pushing him probably more towards the second round? Yes, and I don't think we can overlook those.
Brent, staying on quarterbacks for just another second here. Are there any down ballot type quarterbacks? So I'm talking guys outside of that first round, basically anybody after Penix, that you find yourself gravitating to a little bit. Maybe you like their upside as a potential project or developmental quarterback.
I think if you ask teams, they will say Spencer Rattler. I mean, 2.5 years ago, we were talking about him as the potential number 1 overall pick. Boy, does that seem like a long time ago. But obviously, everything he overcame when for Caleb Williams taking his starting spot, having the transfer to South Carolina, struggling at times with that offense and everything that was good and bad with the Gamecocks the last 2 seasons. I think people within the league still like his ability, or at least natural upside, to develop. Now, if you ask me personally, the best quarterback I saw at this Senior Bowl was Carter Bradley from South Alabama. It was not Michael Penix. It was not Bo Nix. It was the South Alabama local kid who happens to be Gus Bradley's son.
Yeah.
For those who know, the defensive coordinator and former Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. Now, am I saying that he's going to be the next Brock Purdy? Absolutely not. but I think there's more there for a guy they can take in the late rounds. They could potentially develop that has that surprise factor, because he was at Toledo for 4 years, didn't start, right? He was a backup. Then he goes to South Alabama, starts 1 year, goes to Senior Bowl, impresses pretty much everyone, and I think there's a future in the league with him.
From the the Justin Reeds to the Derwin James, kind of these hybrid guys in the secondary, there's always like this fangled position that the NFL wants to emulate to try to combat what offenses are doing. There's plenty of speed in the secondary in this year's combine. Is there a type of player that you think some of these guys need to be that the NFL is looking to replicate?
I always call it like the Derwin James prototype, right? He's the hybrid. He's not a safety, he's not a corner, he's not a linebacker, but he just does a little bit of all of it. And I think, because what the NFL wants is a guy that they don't have to take off the field, that they don't have to bring in sub packages for, because he's capable of creating plays in multiple different facets. And I actually like this safety class as an example. If you look at someone like, if you look at Kalen Bullock, a lot of people are putting him as a traditional free safety, but he can drop down in the slot. Same thing with Javon Bullard from Georgia. Personally, one of my favorite players in this draft, Jaden Hicks from Washington State, how physical he can be with the ball in front of him, playing down in the box and even blitzing at times. So you have those type of guys in this year's class. And with this year's safety class, I think you're going to be able to find a top level second to third line defender who can create multiple plays. And I would be remiss not to mention Cameron Kinchens from Miami. Now, I understand. Believe me, I heard it this morning. We put out our new mock draft this morning. We had Cameron Kinchens in the first round. He only had a 2.0 relative athletic score. I get it. I understand. At the same time, did anyone watch the rest of his workout where he looked so fluid and so good in all the drills and all the things that matter? It's much like the Keon Coleman argument, right? Yeah, he didn't test as well as you wanted. Probably it's pretty disappointing. Maybe it pushes him down a little bit. But the fluidity, the natural fluidity, when you're actually doing football things like Cameron Kinchens and the way he can play the game, to us, he's still safety one, despite all of the things we just discussed.
Now, I know he didn't run as well as he wanted to, but he didn't really play that way at Minnesota either. Are we using the film to validate the combines, or the combines to validate the film with Tyler Nubin?
Yes. Next question. No,
he made a ton of plays for a guy that I felt like I thought he was going to be a little smoother, but he was a machine in college, and that secondary cranks out pros.
It does. I mean, let's not forget that's where Antoine Winfield Jr. came from. Yeah. And if everyone remembers, Antoine Winfield Jr. wasn't like this uber athlete, at least
good
when
point.
We're talking about
good point.
With these huge RAS scores. And the natural instinct specifically for safety, what that Nubin clearly has, with his ability to read the quarterbacks, to understand and have excellent route recognition, to make plays on the ball, to me, offsets some of that athleticism. Now, is that applicable across the board? Of course not, because one, not everyone is as talented as Nubin in all the areas I just described. And sorry, my great Pyrenees just walked downstairs. But also, second, that's a furry horse. But yeah,
you couldn't find a bigger. I mean, what, the giant mastiffs weren't available, or wow.
But I also think to myself, there are teams that will automatically strike those guys off the board. Like, let's use the Colts as an example. If you have like a lower than a 9.5 RAS, Chris Ballard is not drafting you. I think that's to a degree, it's a bit of an oversight. But to an extent, I understand it, because when you look at the NFL today, it's bigger, faster, stronger than ever. This elite athleticism is more important than we've ever seen it. So you have to be someone like Nubin, who's elite in other areas, to offset where teams may strike them down a little bit when it comes to the evaluation purely on athleticism.
Brent, let's stay in the secondary, but move to corner here. It looks like a pretty deep corner class, maybe not a top 5 type talent guy, but a lot of guys that maybe go in the first round, a lot of guys that look like they could be early starters. How would you rate this cornerback group?
Well, you're right. Now, you don't have that Sauce Gardner, right, this year? You don't have that that quote-unquote top 10 guy.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really been fun about this year's class is seeing guys emerge. Quinyon Mitchell is the sterling example, right? A lot of people knew of him last year. He had that amazing game, I think it was against Northern Illinois, where he had 4 interceptions. And I thought he would make a run at the NFL last year, but then he decided to go back for his final season and played just as well. But what's been really awesome to see from him is the overall evolution, right? Because I know we slow played him as a prospect, as an example. Why? Toledo played a heavy zone defense. So he was always playing with the ball in front of him. And when you have ball skills like that, driving, making that many plays, either defending or interceptions, comes naturally to him. Then you see him go to the Senior Bowl, and he's starting to lock down guys when they're asking him in the man coverage one-on-ones, and he's running with every single guy there, and he's just so sticky on these guys' hips. It's like, okay, now we really have something here. Then you go and run a 4-3-3, and it's like, oh, okay, all right. Now you're not just in that first-round conversation. Now you're maybe in that cornerback one conversation, and it's really been cool to see him, and not just him. Like Terrion Arnold is another example. Don't forget, Terrion Arnold entered Alabama as a 5-star safety recruit. He was not a cornerback. He just converted last year. So you had to continue with his development and what you saw this year, and allowed him to jump over a guy like his own teammate, Kool-Aid McKinstry. he was that a third example near the top that people were talking about. Kyrie Jackson. You know, he was never a huge name in Alabama. 1 year at Oregon, really established himself as a top cornerback. So you're right in that we don't have that top 10. He's in the defensive back in the conversation with all these other elite talents. But it's been really cool to see the positional class overall just ascend and really earn their spot into that first round and develop the way that we've seen them.
What would you do with Cooper DeJean?
I'm going to go back to a quote last year, okay? So I'm on social media half to as part of the job, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And obviously my combine experience was absolutely bonkers this year. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, I apologize. But when it comes to last year, the most engagement I got from any tweet was a quote by Riley Moss, Cooper DeJean's teammate at Iowa. And he stated, "I may look different, but I don't play different." And for those who know, you know. With Cooper DeJean, I think it's very much the same mentality. He is, to me, a cornerback through and through. He is a guy that has, and I'm talking elite athleticism. Yep. Like, he would have blew the doors off if he wasn't still recovering from his injury. So I think it was unfortunate that he fractured that fibula, but he's a legit first rounder and a cornerback all day.
That's Brent Sobleski from Bleacher Report. You can find their latest mock draft at bleacherreport.com. Brent, we appreciate your time. Hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, B. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.
That's Brent Sobleski from Bleacher Report. Coming up next.
I thought he may say Kyle Hamilton.
Ooh, little Hurrdat hot seat before we wrap up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are also on KFOR for this third hour. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. And we're brought to you by our friends at the War Horse Sportsbook and the War Horse Casino. We are just a few days away, a couple weeks, I guess, from the NCAA tournament starting. That means you've still got a little bit of time.
Is it close?
We're getting there. We're getting there. It's March. Look at the calendar.
I feel like we're talking about brackets.
We are talking about brackets. And if you get a perfect bracket, you can win $1 million from War Horse Casino. All you have to do is be a War Horse Rewards member and get some entries by placing $50 sportsbook bets or getting 50 points on slots and racing. Each one of those gets you an entry into the $1 million perfect bracket challenge. Even if you don't get a perfect bracket, you can still win $10,000 in prizes for the top brackets, including weekly prizes as the tournament goes on. Make your picks by March 17th through March 20th after the bracket comes out and before the first game starts to make sure you are eligible, and you go activate those entries in person at the War Horse Casino in Lincoln between March 18th and March 24th. If you have any questions, go to warhorsecasino.com for a full list of rules and details. That's Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. Time for a little Hurrdat hot seat here, DB. We've gone through a lot of topics here today. Some random, some not so random, some sports related, some otherwise. But one of the things that I've been wanting to ask you for a few days now, we haven't got to it.
Oh, boy.
Is about a couple of coaches in college football that got paid recently. One, Lance Leipold down at Kansas, gets bumped from the 3-ish range to around 7. And one, Steve Sarkisian down at Texas, got bumped from about 5.8 to 10.9. Both guys almost doubling their salaries. My question to you is, would you rather be paying Lance Leipold 7 or Steve Sarkisian 11?
I'd rather be paying Lance Leipold 7.
Why?
This lacks a little subjectivity because Kansas recruited very, very well. So I think I have a good understanding of what he's about. I've known him since forever.
So you got a good look
back
into
to Omaha, I just know the lens that I'm looking through with Coach Leipold, and that staff is on the right track. Right, they lost Fuchs, obviously, to the NFL, who did a lot of the local recruiting here, but I just think that program is on the come, and I think for Sark, the $10 million, I just don't know how sustainable it is.
What he did this year,
moving in to the SEC, it's a little more volatile, and it's like the market, man. I mean, I would want to put my money in the safest place possible, and I think,
and we just don't know about Sark.
Yeah, I much prefer to pay Leipold.
I tend to agree. I'm not a Sarkisian guy. First and foremost, I mean, obviously they had a great year. Not hating on him. First of all, I didn't really understand Texas hiring him in the first place. I didn't really get that move. But if you look at his...
He had a lot of good players, didn't he?
He had a lot of good players, right? I'm not saying he can't recruit. But you look at his teams. This is his third stop at a Power 5 school. Washington, briefly USC, and Texas. Now, obviously, there were some things going on there at USC that, you can take for what you will in terms of his time there. But this is the first year he's won double-digit games. It is the first year he's lost fewer than 4 games in a season. There are a lot of 5 and 6 loss seasons on his resume. A lot. And I look at him this year, maybe he's figured it out. Maybe, he's still only 49 years old. He's not that old, right? I look at this year and I go, is this the outlier or is this who he is now?
Well, his best season was up to this point was the 9-4 season at SC.
Yeah.
So, and he's kind of stayed in the same holding pattern.
7-6, 8-4, 9-4, 8-5.
This was by far and away the biggest jump from year to a year, unless you count going 9-4 and then going 3-2, which he did in 2015.
Yeah.
So this was the biggest positive jump that he's had. I don't. So for right now, it has to be an outlier, right? I don't think you can say he's trending because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the pattern.
It really doesn't. I mean, he had a similar pattern at a strikingly similar pattern at Utah. His first 2 years, he goes 5-7, 7-6. He goes 5-7, 8-5 his first 2 years at Texas. And look at some of these scores. Okay, there were a lot of close games last year in 2022 that put him at 8-5 instead of 12-2. A lot of close games this year that put him at 12-2 instead of 8-5. I don't look at that team and go, yes, this is a guy that is consistently going to win me double-digit games.
No, I understand. I mean, the easy low-hanging fruit is you're going to look at his record in total, and you're going to see 71-49, and you're going to be like, "Ooh, is that $10 million worthy?" I mean, for where he is right now, where Texas is, and the cost of doing business, I mean, I see why they did what they had to do.
Yeah,
I just think. Because I'm not going to hate on Sark. Like, I felt like this was a tough year for him. And originally I called him a dark horse when the season first started. I was like, golly, I mean, Texas is a team that if I just trusted Sark, like on paper, they are sensational. I mean, got it done. And I actually think there's something to that.
Sure.
Right? So I'm not one of those guys that poo-poos having good players and winning. Because
it's not as easy as just having good players.
And listen, take a look around.
Yes. 100%.
It's a lot more than just having.
That is only one part of the equation.
Good players, and some of these coaches at the high school level
don't understand that.
They're gonna figure it out.
And so, yeah, I don't want to take away the 12-2 from Sark.
So, like, I'm gonna give it. I got to give him his due. It's hard, especially when he had a ton of expectations.
Yeah, Texas is not an easy job,
and he met them.
Yeah.
So, I just think for less volatile money, give me L2.
Yeah, my question for him is, can he continue to meet whatever the standard? Because now that they've gotten to the playoff,
I just don't. They're not going to win 12 every year, though.
No, they're not. Now you don't have to.
You got to be figuring. You got to figure out what the standard is.
Right. And I don't know moving into the SEC.
Obviously, it isn't going to be winning 12.
No, obviously they can get SEC level talent. They've shown that, but can he compete against the SEC level coaches? That's a different question. The Big 12 was not the SEC this year. That's a whole different deal there. All right, we've got a little bit of time here. I wanted to ask you one more. We'll stick with college football here. And we talked about this a little bit last week when we were talking about college football playoff expansion. If I make you commissioner of college football, right, what are the changes you start to make either before we get to the 12 teams, so between now and next year, or let's say that you have autonomy and you can get things done in the next
Number
6
one,
months.
we're playing the same number of conference games.
Okay. Do you have a specific number or just everybody plays the same?
9.
Okay. Everybody plays 9 conference games.
Yes.
That's number one. What's next?
Well, we're already we're moving towards the headsets.
Okay. Get the ears, the head,
and the iPad.
Communication in the head and the helmet.
And the iPad.
Get the iPads. Okay. Yep. Allow better communication on the sidelines.
Yeah, you just eliminate the Connor Stallion stuff.
Yeah, well, and there's no need to not have. I mean, it's dumb not to have it.
And as Coach Rule said, yeah, a lot of high schools do it. I don't see why we can't do it in college.
Yep, it's kind of silly. Commissioner DB changing college football.
I mean, those are the big ones. I think. I know this is weird and it's kind of finite. I don't like the fumble out of the end zone rule.
That it becomes a touchback for the other team.
Yeah. But
okay.
Oh, at first blush, like I'm not sure what my
solution is.
Because
you want to penalize the offense for making the mistake, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's
But if nobody recovers it, I don't want
Is it really a mistake?
Yeah.
Because if you do it out of bounds any other place on the field, you just get the ball back.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah.
So
we changed
I don't like the change of possession thing.
But you don't want to put it at like the 1-inch line either.
No.
So what's like 5-yard penalty? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean there should be some.
It should be a little bit punitive, right?
Yeah.
Well, like 5-yard penalty would make sense. It's like a procedural penalty.
I don't know about punitive because I want to change. I want the punishment to deter the behavior, which a lot of times punitive punishment doesn't.
Fair.
But I don't know what a rational, reasonable
answer is on that one.
Yeah, but for sure the conference games, because I'm telling you, if I'm the other conferences and I'm not in the SEC and the Big Ten, I just don't know why you don't gang up and keep the other 2 conferences out. Just concede.
Do they have that power?
Sure. Talk to yourselves, not them.
We will have Joey Warning coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Joining us now on the phone is Joey Werning from Lincoln Southeast. He's the head basketball coach getting ready for state. Coach, how are you this morning?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Coach, congratulations, man. Good morning.
Thank you.
Coach, as you get ready for your first game tomorrow against Westside, I know we've got a Westside guy here, so we're trying not to tell too many secrets.
Hey, let's get that out of the way. As long as I've been doing this, I can be objective, and you guys have kicked their tail 3 out of the last 4, so I got no problems being objective.
I was going to say, Coach, you've had some success against Westside in your past few meetings. How do you not maybe take for granted the fact that you've had some success and prepare for them as if they're a totally new opponent?
Our message has been pretty black and white. I mean, we haven't had success with teams twice this year. It's hard to beat a good team twice. You know, we beat Pius in the HAC tournament. We lost them a couple weeks later. We beat Kearney in the HAC tournament. We ended up, losing a late lead to them later in the year. And even at the end of the season, we beat North Star in the HAC tournament. We end up losing a big lead late, that kind of was some late adversity that we ended up rallying around. But, I think we're battle tested at this point. We understand, or I hope we understand that, playing a team a second time is not going to be the same, especially when the first time you met was early December. We're a lot different team. They're a lot different team as well.
Coach, it's interesting. I just following this a long time, even watching the kids when they were young. I'm talking 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and this whole Lincoln Omaha thing. I was talking to it was actually the Applegates a couple years ago, leaving Westside after you guys won. I said, the one thing that I like about Southeast, it was kind of different, and the football team did it to us too. There's this toughness. There's this competitive grit that you guys bring to the table every time you touch the court. I got to believe that the outcomes are intentional, right? Like that has got to be something that you preach.
Yeah, I mean, definitely our program's based on how hard we play. It's something we talk about daily. Even our district championship, it was kind of an ugly game. It was a kind of a toughness game. It was a rock fight, if you will, and we ended up pulling it out 40-38. And I thought there was a lot of, 50-50 balls, plays we made, players going out, sticking their nose in there. We were a little outsized, just going out there and competing and taking pride in kind of our principles of our program and taking pride in representing Southeast in general, like you said. There's a lot of rich tradition here and history here.
Coach, I want to take you back to the district game against Creighton Prep. That was obviously a super close game. You end up winning by just 2 points there. We were talking with Coach Hurd earlier, and he thought that having a really close game in an away environment helped prepare his team for the state tournament. Are you glad that they were able to go through an experience like that against Prep to get you ready for state?
Definitely. I mean, again, we keep preaching to the guys, we're battle tested. We're going to draw on a lot of our wins and our close wins, as well as some of our devastating losses throughout the year. So we've seen a lot of what you can see. We've grown a lot. We're a completely different team than earlier on in the year. And dating back to our game before Westside, we lost in double overtime. Bynum hit a shot from like 35 feet out of bounds to send it to overtime or double overtime. I can't remember. You've been through it. So I think there's not going to be a whole lot you're going to throw at us that we haven't quite seen in terms of different situations.
The first time around was interesting. You jumped on them early. I think it was 25-12 out of the gates, and Mike and Dang got busy early. I think Dang hit a couple big threes, if I remember. Kind of got it wasn't a huge crowd, but it got a little bit excitement in the gym. Westside couldn't match the energy. I know they're different teams, but you should be well attended tomorrow night. It's the late tilt. Do you pay much attention to the starts you could potentially get off with a city in close proximity?
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to represent Lincoln. We're excited, to have a rematch versus Westside. Obviously, you want to get out to a good start, but like I said earlier, we've kind of been through it all. We got down early versus that Bryan game, to reference that again. We were down 20-6, and we ended up, up late in the game. There's been games we've been down, and we battled back. There's been games we have late leads and got a little complacent. We ended up losing. So just being able to reference those things leading up to this game and continuing to reference them during the game, just trying to get our guys to focus on being in the moment.
Yeah, Tay and Jake seem to enjoy playing against Westside quite a bit. Do you kind of like the familiarity that the guys have across the state with how battle tested they are from summer basketball?
Yeah, I mean, the more basketball they can play, the better, the more familiar they can get with, even Tay played with, I believe, Ricky Lofton this summer.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are familiar with one another. So it's a little added fun, a little added competition. But at the end of the day, it's Southeast versus Westside. It's not an individual battle. We're just trying to go out and compete as well as we can as a team.
How have you gotten ready for your practice protocol? You get a little break, but you could potentially play 3 games and in 4 days. How have you? Whose brain did you pick? Or what style do you like? Like, how did you get your guys ready for a potential gauntlet?
Yeah, I mean, I apologize to repeat myself, but we've been through it with the hack tournament. We played, 3 games in 3 days, so that's another thing we're trying to reference. Obviously last year, having made it, maybe we were just happy to make it last year. And
yeah.
I thought we competed well last year. It was a really good basketball game versus Gretna, but I think now we're looking to take that next step.
Coach, with the state schedule, you guys are playing the last game of the day. You're kind of in the evening. Not a terribly unusual time for a high school game, but is there any part of you that is going to, I guess, how are you going to prepare when you're sitting around at state all day trying to get ready for that game? Because I've been in that situation before with teams, and sometimes things can get a little squirrely as you're waiting to play.
Yeah, we're just trying to make it as regular as possible. We got an itinerary we're going to follow that we followed last year. Just take it segment by segment, go through our normal walkthrough, get a team meal, go through our normal routine and treat it like any other game.
Yeah, it should be a heck of a game, Coach. I'm looking forward to it, man. Best wishes tomorrow night.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach. That's Coach Werning from Lincoln Southeast. They've got West Side tomorrow night, 7:45. Tip off.
They play hard.
I'm imagining being in that gym all day because I imagine they're going to get down there early.
No, that's a good. I know their body clocks are set for that.
Right, but it
is a different feel.
Yeah, it's a different deal.
Yeah, I wanted to see because I think practicing is different. Most of these guys played either last Monday or last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a considerable amount of time off in between, which is a little different than the hack tournament, but there's a lot of time off before you have to get ready for a quick run. So I figured, and they're capable.
Yeah, they played the 26th, so that's a full week and a half.
Yeah, it's
off, which is you don't really have that from December on because you get a little break for.
Yeah, and even the dead period, I think, is only
it's a little shorter than that.
Through the 27th.
Yeah, it's like about a week.
It's a week.
So the longest time off they've had since the season started. It's a little unusual, and then you're going to be.
It's a little bit of a concern for me because I know sometimes the more experienced you are, the better it is. Like we know how to practice.
Yeah.
For late in November, but there's a fine line between being in shape, especially with your style of play, versus
wearing guys out.
Rest because it could be.
You got to be fresh, right? You want to be fresh for those situations. Last thing you want to do is sort of over exert those guys, and I know that was a big thing with. The teams you played on for Nebraska. I know it's a big thing with you guys with Westside, making sure guys are ready to go, but not overdoing it. It's a super fine line to walk.
Yeah, and I'm just, it's late in the day, and guys will be sitting around watching. And I'm telling you, when I say Southeast jumped on Westside early, 25-12. I think they ended up losing by 6 or 7. But the game was only in the 50s.
Yeah, 58-51.
And they never. They couldn't keep Nagoya out of the paint. He's a little shifty guard. And then Tay and Jake kind of took over in the second half, just holding Westside at bay. Westside shot. Southeast got into them. So this one is emotionally will be very, very charged.
Yeah, and
it's not North Central.
No, but you mentioned I don't remember if it was on air or off air.
Definite familiarity.
But there's not a lot of love loss here.
No.
And that I feel like a lot of times you don't get that as much because of what you talked about with guys playing together or being buddies or training together or whatever.
This isn't
not a lot of buddies in this one.
No. Outside of Ricky and Tay. Yeah, that's and Ricky's like the nicest. It's just two good kids. It's two nice kids. It's good-natured guys, but it'll definitely be intense.
We will continue our state basketball previews tomorrow. Knock out the rest of the coaches on the boys' side for Class A. We appreciate all the coaches for joining us today. DB and I will be back tomorrow. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln.